Are you considering surgery for your IBD? Whether that's Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, does it feel like you've tried everything and nothing's working? Or perhaps you're just tired of being in pain, feeling hopeless, just living a crappy life where it seems like you're living a life with an uncertain future that feels very dark, and it really does feel hopeless. Or perhaps you're really considering surgery because a doctor recommended it, or maybe a loved one suggested it. Either way, if you're considering surgery, I'd watch this video for some genuine insight, because this video is going to cover my thoughts on surgeries and IBDs. It's going to cover topics such as, does surgery actually work? The pros and cons of surgery. Does surgery cure IBDs? And is surgery a long-term solution? And it's also going to cover things like, do you have other options? Are there other things that you can do instead of surgery? And the reason that I'm making this video right now is because I received an email within the last month from a dude that was in a really bad place with his IBD. He was in a really bad flare for a few months already. He felt hopeless, and he went to the doctors because he wanted to get a second opinion in regards to his situation. He went for a colonoscopy, and they suggested that he should have a surgery to have his colon removed. And he was actually really considering this surgery. And I think that he was considering this surgery just because of how hopeless he felt. And I totally get that, because being in that situation, you want to do anything that you can that you think that's going to alleviate your pain or make you feel better. But going back and forth with this dude, having a conversation, it was really interesting, and it's almost ironic to learn that before this flare state, he was in remission for 5+ years using a low carbohydrate diet. And then I asked him what happened, and he said that he started drinking lots of alcohol, eating lots of garbage food, lots of processed sugars, and then his health started to it started this downward spiral that ended up where he is now, just feeling completely like garbage and being in constant pain. But it's really important to realize that at one point in time, he was doing really good and he was in remission, and some of his own actions led him to get there. And we'll discuss this a little bit later on, but that's really important just to remember that point. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to say that I am against 99% of surgeries when it comes to IBDs, and that's I'm against surgeries 99% of the time. And this includes having your colon removed, getting resections, and most fistula procedures. And I'm not a doctor giving you medical advice. I'm just sharing my insight and my experience to maybe give you a different opinion with the situation. And for the 1%, I think in extreme situations like blockages and potential ruptures, I think that surgical intervention may be required, and that's something that you have to consider. But I think the real challenging part is determining does your situation actually pose a real danger versus the perceived fear? Because I think a lot of people, they're just in a lot of fear because of their doctors or perhaps loved ones that are suggesting things, and they think it's an easy way out when it comes to surgery. And I think it's really important that you're making a decision with a clear head and not in fear, because the worst time you can ever make a decision is when you're emotional, and especially when you're scared, because you'll do a lot of things that you might not do otherwise. And now just to talk about, I'm going to go into some detail when I'm talking about pros and cons of surgery, but in the description, I have a blog post that goes over all of this stuff in more detail. It's just a little bit more boring, but to do it online, to do it live in video, I'm just trying to take an approach that's not quite as boring. So some of the cons of surgery is that you can scar your intestines. There's a risk of infection. There's internal bleeding, so you can cause ruptures. You can also have stoma problems. And again, this depends on which kind of, I'm not going to go into every operation that you can get when it comes to IBDs. This is just general conversation. You can also have future B vitamin deficiencies after surgery. And now to some of the pros of surgery. Well, if you get surgery, you can get improved well-being. You can get relief from your IBD, which is like a reduction of symptoms. And some people actually go into remission, especially with resections, and that's when you're removing the diseased portion or the diseased portion of the tissue that's in your gut. So a lot of people, once they have that done, they can feel a lot better, and they can I guess, go into this temporary remission, or they can go into a remission that lasts for a little bit while, where they can almost eat the things that they used to eat and live this old life. But I think what's really important to consider is that results aren't guaranteed. You can go through this entire process when it comes to surgery, and your symptoms might not improve. And it's an expensive process when it comes to whether that's taking meds, the actual procedure that you're paying for yourself, depending on what country you live in, the hospital stay, recovery, time away from work. But in my experience, I think that positive results are usually short-lived, and the procedure works until it doesn't. And I think for a lot of people, you want to get surgery because you think it's going to give you results now. But if you actually scavenge the internet and you actually go look for people that are doing good with surgeries, you'll see that it's not as many people as you think. And a lot of people just get the surgery out of fear rather than actually making an informed decision. And I think we're living in a time right now when many doctors they're too quick to suggest surgeries when it comes to IBDs. And it's really important to understand in most situations, surgery is not typically curative. Surgery is not a cure. And again, like I said, in most situations, it's not. And I think in the future, we're going to look back and allopathic medicine is going to realize that we're really quick to recommend and suggest surgical intervention. And I think making this type of decision should be handled with the utmost care. It should never be made out of fear or pressure by anyone. I know when I was first diagnosed, it was definitely recommended to me that I have my first off, considering the resection. If that doesn't work, that maybe they think about removing my colon. And I get when you're scared, I knew right from the beginning that wasn't something that I wanted to entertain. I was scared, but I was more scared of having a surgery. So maybe I was acting out of fear partially, but I definitely knew that I wanted to exhaust all other options before I looked at doing surgery. And that's the route that I took. Because I think what happens is when you're newly diagnosed, or you're at a point when you're feeling crappy and it just feels like you've been living with this disease forever and nothing's improving, I think we get tunnel vision, and it's really hard to see a future that's nice and bright and full of possibility when you're living in this current existence where you feel crappy and you're just negative and pessimistic because you feel crappy every day. Your mind's not right because you're not getting nutrients, because your gut's constantly inflamed. It's just a vicious cycle. But when it comes down to it, you feel crappy every day. You don't see, you're just a pessimist you're not hopeful of the future. You don't think your dreams are possible. And I know because I've been there. But you need to realize that this situation that you're in right now, it's temporary. And I think that the easiest way to get out of this kind of tunnel vision is by taking personal responsibility for your situation. And for me, that was what worked for me, is taking personal responsibility for my situation. And usually that came to asking myself questions like, am I responsible for my situation? Have I been eating a good diet? Have I been overdoing the junk food or the garbage? Is there a diet or protocol that I haven't tried yet? Whether that's keto, carnivore, paleo, SCD diet, you name it. Have I been properly managing my stress? Am I stressed right now? Do I feel resentment towards people? How do I feel? Have I been working out? Have I been doing anything to alleviate this stress? Because really, it's really important to say, am I responsible for my situation? And I think when you go through these questions, if you're partially responsible for your current state of health, it's going to be evident, because it's really easy to lie to other people and to say, hey, you know what? No, I'm the victim here. None of this is my fault. But when you're alone by yourself and you ask yourself these questions, you're going to know. You're going to know if you've tried different diets, if you have issues with stress, if you're not putting in the work, if you're not grinding to try to make a difference in your life. Because you can't lie to yourself. And I think that's really good, because I think deep down inside, you're going to know the truth one way or another. But prompting these questions is really, it's going to make you admit to yourself if you're responsible for your situation or not. And I think one of the benefits to being responsible for your situation, or admitting that you're responsible for your situation, is that if you're responsible, you can alter and change your situation. You know, you don't have to be stuck where you are right now. You can completely change your situation. And I've watched so many people go from 100% inflamed to healed. I've lost count of the people that I've spoken with that went from a full-blown disease state, being in a terrible flare, to being able to change their situation and get into a state of remission, long-term remission. This includes people that have suffered with Crohn's disease and colitis, the most severe cases you can imagine, for 20 to 30 years of suffering, and they switched their situation around and achieved remission. So this isn't just like some little joke situation. This is people that have suffered the majority of their life and were still able to turn their situation around. People that were scheduled to have their colons removed 1 week, change what they were doing, and then within a few months feel better than they've ever felt in their whole life, trying other things other than meds and surgeries. So I've seen it all. I've watched people completely turn around their life doing things when it comes to implementing a new diet or different strategies or new protocols. And yeah, it is worth it to take a different approach. And I think if you're watching this video, that you need to realize is that your body knows how to heal. Too many people complicate healing. Healing's built into your DNA, the intelligence of your body. Consider the last time you cut yourself. Did it heal? Did a scab grow? Did it fall off? Then you had a little scar and maybe the scar faded in time? Did you have to remind your body how to do it? Did you have to coach your body along the way? Most likely we know the answer to that. Did it heal? Of course it healed, because it's built in. You don't need to think about it. It just knows what to do. Your body remembers how to heal. And if you're watching this, I think most people are going to be on the same page. You can reverse your Crohn's disease and colitis. And as I said, your body knows how to heal. You just need to make some changes to your life, to your diet, and various things. And then you need to let your body do its things. You need to stop putting garbage into your body. You need to let your body be in a situation that it can heal, that it can get rid of the toxicity, it can get rid of the garbage that it has, and then let it heal. You can maintain that for a long time. You can change your life dramatically by implementing changes. I think you need to stop overthinking every little detail and doubting your body's ability to heal, because like I said, it's built in. Your body knows what to do. And if you're looking for the specifics of how to overcome your IBD, I've left a link in the description that goes over all the details to this, because that can get pretty extensive. I don't think it's complicated. I think it's actually pretty easy, but it's a lot more descriptive than I feel like talking about in this specific video. So if you go to the link in that description, then you can get the simple version of what you need to do to overcome your autoimmune disease like Crohn's disease and colitis. And I think that what you need to realize is that reversing your IBD takes time. It requires grit, but it's worth it, because when you commit to healing, your body is going to reward you in direct proportion to the amount that you're helping it. So it's going to require effort, discipline, dedication. And I know for a lot of people, if you're watching this video, I don't know where you sit, if you're sitting on the situation, if you're sitting on the side that you're really, really considering surgery. I know a lot of people consider surgery because they think it's like their only hope. But I think in most cases, people are relying on surgery because they think that it's an easy fix. But in most situations, surgeries don't give you instant results. And if they do give you like instant results, they're usually very short-lived. I've watched, in the last decade of speaking with people, I've watched countless people go from surgery to surgery to surgery, whether that's resections, having multiple resections, or just having their colon removed, or having a stoma put in. I've watched all these situations, but most people regret their surgeries. And you might see people on Instagram or Facebook or these groups nowadays where they're like, look at me, look at my bag, look at that. But most people don't want to get a surgery. And this video is aimed at people to maybe reduce the amount of future surgeries, but it's really aimed at the people that are pondering surgery because they're not sure, that they're scared. And for those people, it's like I say, hold back on surgery. Make it a last result. And because the majority of people that do get these surgeries, the mass majority of them are not any closer to getting into remission. And if you want to see, go scavenge the internet, look for people's stories, see how many people that you come across get surgeries and live these long lives without ever having symptoms again. I don't think you're going to find that, and I know you're not going to find that because I've looked plenty of times. And the people that I do find are people that change their diet and their lifestyle. Those are the people that you find that have achieved remission at 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Because you know what? Reversing your disease is a long-term solution. By changing your behaviors, addressing the underlying cause of your IBD, that's what equates to long-term change. Because once you've removed the factors that actually cause the inflammation that's going on in your body's going to heal, it's going to regenerate. Like we've discussed before, your body knows how to heal. It's built in. And you can completely turn around your situation, going from 100% inflamed to feeling better than you felt in a long time. You can change your IBD within 3 to 6 months. You can dramatically change your life. I've watched the worst cases that you can imagine achieve remission. And I know what it's like if you're watching this video, if you're like, oh, I wonder if my situation is worse than his situation or these people that I read about. Because I know, because I was there. And I remember it took talking to somebody that suffered for 20 plus years. And I think I only suffered for a few years. And just what I mean, a few years, just a few years of symptoms. But when I spoke with somebody that suffered from severe colitis, where they suffered for 20 plus years and they were looking at having a surgery, and they were able to heal and regenerate and change their entire situation. It was only then that I finally realized that I could do it. Because it seemed like no matter what I read, no matter what story I heard, I just thought that maybe I was one of the unlucky ones that was stuck with a case that was hard to treat, or I was just, going to have to suffer for the rest of my life. But that's not the case, and that's BS in 99% of the situations. Your case isn't worse than in somebody else's case, because my doctor said that my case was a 9 out of 10 on severity, and I'm sitting here over a decade into remission. And if you're watching this video, I want you to imagine what your life can be I want you to imagine what your life can be in a year from now. How much can change? You might feel crappy right now, but can you imagine a year where you feel awesome? You have the best physique you've had in a long time. You feel physically fit. You're active. You have energy. Your dreams feel possible. And I want you to think about that because it's really important. It helps drive your success. I know that if you're currently experiencing a flare and you're experiencing that tunnel vision that I talked about, things can get very dark, or it feels like nothing's possible. But your situation only has to be temporary if you make the changes. You can make a complete turnaround, and you can be telling your story on a channel about how you went from being 100% inflamed to achieving long-term remission. And I know when I think about how blessed I've been, because it's been over a decade, and I remember if I was to think about my worst that I've ever been, when I was on a bathroom floor pretty much in tears, asking what did I do to deserve such a thing, going to the bathroom 20 to 30 times a day of bloody diarrhea, having every symptom and side effect that you can imagine, having multiple autoimmune conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis, just complete body pain like fibromyalgia and Crohn's disease, colitis, you name it. Because most of us suffer from multiple autoimmune conditions, and I can get into that in another video, but it was just a very dark place to thinking of that turning around to living this amazing, blessed life where I have 2 beautiful girls, children that I love, a wife that I love, and a life that I'm excited about, being able to travel, enjoy the world. Yeah, I have nothing to say but thinking that my life has been blessed by this disease, because it's changed my life and how precious I think that life is. So the takeaway point here is, if you're considering surgery, make sure you're doing that because you want to actually have a surgery, and that you've investigated all the possible protocols that you can try, and you've exhausted everything. Have you tried the diet? Have you addressed the stress? Like I said, you know the answers to that. But I think when you look hard, you're going to realize and say, hey, you know what? I haven't tried that diet yet. I do have some stress and some resentment that I have to get out. I have to address physical activity. I have to make sure that I walk every day. I have to do these things. You can switch your situation around. Don't let somebody scare you into making a decision that's very hard to undo once you've done it. I have the utmost faith that you can switch. You can change your life around completely, and you can live an amazing life that's free of constant symptoms. And even let's just say the worst case situation is you exponentially change your life, where you reduce your symptoms by 80 to 90%. And I think that's very, very, very possible. But for most people, you can do a complete turnaround, and you can live an awesome life.
Are you tired of feeling crappy? Get my free healing guide. Tips, tweaks, and hacks. Click the description for more information.